right, everybody. Welcome to WRUULP Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRUU.org. We are Savannah Soundings Community Radio with Global Soul. I am your host, Adam Messer, and this is the Adam Messer Show. And my special guest today is Siris Rivas-Verdejo. Am I saying that correctly? Because I am like, I'm totally
every time
stumped.
You say it correctly.
I feel like I'm gonna botch it. I'm so sorry. But you are a very talented young lady. You have a lot of different talents.
Why, thank you.
Yeah. So you are a people person, a big people person.
I do like people.
So would you mind? You've been on the show before, but would you mind just introducing yourself to the guests that maybe or the audience that might not have heard the last show?
Last time. Yeah, it was a completely different show. So thanks for having me on again.
Yeah.
I just love chatting with you. I was actually just talking about how you were on my show, Choosing a Different Future. We don't want to forget to mention that. Adam was on my show. I think it was like the second season of it, and we had a great time talking about his writing.
It's the first time I'd used Zoom with you. I was like, I've never used Zoom before, so it was kind of neat.
I hope you got to play around with that platform a little bit. Yeah, it's on Zoom. It's on YouTube, so we were recording it over Zoom. And, it's the Choosing a Different Future show. And I think it was like the second season, so you can check out Adam's chat with me on there. We talked about so many different things.
One of the many talents that you have. You have your own show.
Yeah, and I love that you were able to contribute to that. One of the things that came about with that show was it's all about how people choose something different beyond what's been projected and expected at them and at their bodies. And so we've been having people on there from doctors to teachers, musicians, artists, radio show hosts such as yourself who have been choosing something different and who's inviting people to have a different possibility show up, or who have been witness to those who have chosen something that has opened up new doors and new possibilities. So that's been really fun, and that's also really matches the energy of the rest of my business, which is Empowering Light Language, LLC. And with that, I facilitate classes and give coaching sessions and things like that privately to people all around the world, usually using Zoom, but sometimes phone.
And you travel a lot with that too, right?
I do. Yeah. I'm going to be in Italy in January.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I actually was talking to a lady today. She is a psychologist, and Rachel Bell, and we were talking. Her podcast is going to be on tonight. I went over to her house, and I noticed that she had a massage table. And I was like, oh, you need to meet my friend Siris, because she does all these like healing touch type stuff and what. I really don't know how to describe it. I mean, to me, it's like
that's
metaphysical.
That's a perfectly valid way to describe it. There
yeah.
You go. Yeah.
So, and she said something like Reiki. Reiki is. Do you know about that?
Yeah, I'm a Reiki master.
Okay, so she said, I guarantee that she would know something about that. I was like, I have no idea, because like this is not really my world, but I think it's interesting, like the stuff that you do and the way that you talk, and it's kind of interesting, I think, too, because I was Matt Lastalia. I saw a post that you had tagged him in over the summer of a video chat that you had with someone else. And I watched that and I was like, because I love philosophy, and you were talking about, something, I can't even remember what the subject was, but I was like, you know what, let me reach out to you. And I sent you a message saying, hey, I'm interested in talking with you, and boom, boom, boom. And then we were going to do, like, it was so crazy because we were going to do like an individual show and then a group show and then an individual show. And somehow or another, the communication got whopper-jawed, and it was like, so we ended up,
I love that word.
We ended up having like a show with you and Matt on at the same time. And so this is like the follow-up that we've been trying to do, the individual show, since like July or something like that.
With both of our very busy schedules.
So I think it's really cool that you're finally able to come on here. And, it was a lot of fun being on your show, too, because you talk about a lot of different things. And, I love philosophy. Like Terry Dremel, the guy that was just on the show before here, he's a comic book creator. And we were just talking about creating and writing and, those things. And, I think all of that kind of blends together, the human condition, right? So I think you do a really nice job of that. You also... you do other things too, like you facilitate speech therapy, right?
Yes, I'm a speech language pathologist, and so
you help children
and families.
And families.
Both. Yeah, it's actually funny the timing of us chatting again and me being on the show, because now it's kind of evolved, and my business, after 14, 15 years of me providing private speech and language therapy, feeding therapy, learning behavioral therapy, all of this stuff, and it being very family focused and really about educating and empowering families to know what questions to ask, knowing their rights. A lot of parents get kind of steamrolled in the system when they don't really know what they could ask the teachers for, the therapists for, the system
sometimes
about.
Just knowing the right questions opens up an entire different possibility.
So huge. And so now my mom, who was a bilingual educator for 36 some years, 36 years, maybe almost 40 years, she has multiple businesses as well, and we're going to combine forces, and we're actually going to be opening up a clinic here in Savannah. That's actually going to be a holistic family approach with coaching, and they get to pick and choose different aspects from, do they need speech and language therapy? Maybe it's more, is the child bilingual? There's different considerations if they're multilingual or not. Have they been diagnosed with anything? Are they already getting therapies, and maybe they want to add other services? Nutrition is in there, and diet, counseling, connecting them to other holistic physicians and therapists. Also the trauma and abuse. There's a lot of kids I've worked with that have been in the foster care system or have gone through the adoptive process. So a lot of different kinds of blended families out there, and many feel isolated. Yeah. They don't really know who else they can go to connect, to feel supported, to know what those questions that you mentioned that they could ask.
Yeah, I think that is a great tool to help people, not just children, but people in general, to be able to have the courage to be able to ask a question sometimes. Sometimes it's just, because people that are, been in abusive situations or whatever, a lot of times they're silenced. It's like, oh, you don't talk, you're not allowed to speak, that kind of thing. And or being bullied, being bullied in school, like that's the whole thing. It's like, oh, you're different, we're going to bully you. And just giving those kids or those, young adults that are at risk or whatever, some kind of tools to be able to, just stand on their own 2 feet or to ask for help. I think that's great. It's pretty cool that you're doing this. So when are you going to open up the clinic or whatever?
Probably by the end of this year. We're already getting the furniture in.
Wow. Where's it going to be?
It's actually going to be, to start off, out of our home, and then we're actually on the lookout for different properties. We were already almost about to buy a property in the last month, and it just got really heavy, and there was some kind of...
just not right.
Yeah, it wasn't the fit, but it planted the seed like, hey, let's not wait on the property, because people are already asking for this from us. Yeah. So it's one of those things that you and I talked about with your writing and with your process with everything, is not everything has to be perfect for you to choose.
Oh, yeah. You definitely have to get going. Yeah, you definitely have to just say, okay, one of the questions I love to say is, do you know what's better than perfect? Done. Getting it done.
Here.
Yeah, now. Yeah, do it. Get it done. That's so crazy because we were talking this last month. I've been doing the the whole month of November. I did the NaNoWriMo, which is the National Novel Writing Month Challenge.
I saw the
little updates or whatever. And you got to write 50,000 words in a month. Wow. Like now, this is fiction. So academic and business writing is a little bit different because you're like, oh, I can just. I can do that, academically and, business writing, stuff like that. It's a lot different when you're, doing that because you can use resources and references and conversations and interviews. And those, you have a lot of different tool sets or tools in your tool set for that kind of writing.
Kind of like cushion it up.
Yeah. I mean, well, and it lends credibility and those kind of things, right? But fiction... You're in a whole boat by yourself, rowing or not rowing, or paddling or not paddling. And
a lot of my friends that are writers, they actually find it to be, depending on your take on it, that they actually feel less alone with fiction writing than nonfiction. And I found that to be really interesting. But part of what makes them different, and this isn't the case with all fiction writers,
right?
But my particular friends that mentioned this, I sat with this for a bit because I was really surprised by that point of view. They said that actually with the fiction is that they felt less limited because they could actually travel and pull in ideas from different entities, from different energies, from all over different dimensions and realities. And so if you're willing to kind of be really weird and crazy with your writing and not have a point of view about it.
Yeah, I think you'll have to be a little strange, yeah.
Yeah, and as you know, I'm very strange.
Yeah. Well, that's the cool thing about being creative, though, because, what's strange now might be mainstream later, But I don't know, for me, I listen to audiobooks, I read every day, and mostly nonfiction. I don't read, fiction a lot. Read a lot of fiction as a kid, but I like to write fiction, mostly horror, and I write poetry. But I think that's one of the things. It all comes back to storytelling. Like your show when you're talking to folks and storytelling. Everything we do is a story. We're the way we describe it to ourselves, the way we talk to other people. Everything that we're doing is a story. Even like the presentation of like what we're wearing or, what car we drive or where we live.
How we're showing up in the world and in our lives.
It's a story,
yeah.
And so I think it's kind of interesting. But yeah, it's one of those things going back to doing it, getting it done. It's just like that was a challenge that I thought was interesting. And I had rebooted my story a couple times. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to do this just because I want to get it finished, and I want that off of my plate. I want to put that behind me and move on to the next project. So I think it's cool that you're actually moving on and doing some new stuff, and you're building off of. Yeah. You've been growing a lot since the last time we talked.
No, and same with you. I'm so glad that it's 2 hours now. More of Adam in the world.
2 hours of the week, everybody. Woo-woo. Which is crazy because there's 168 hours in the week. That's all every week. So
that's awesome. But that people are willing to choose it and listen in, and why wouldn't they?
I know. Well, something else too is the thing that I like about doing the show with the podcast. So you have a video cast, same kind of thing. Podcast, video cast. The only difference is you have a video of everything versus having an audio of it, and and
after your input, so thank you for this. I actually added the SoundCloud component and the podcast because and other people were telling me too that sometimes they just want to listen and not have to deal
if
with
you're
the
driving
video.
or something.
Exactly. So I've actually added that in. So thank you for that. I have to acknowledge you for that.
That's awesome. I'm glad that worked out for you. But I think it's cool that we have these. We didn't have these delivery mediums 20 years ago. We had radio and we had newspapers and we had traditional publishing and stuff like that.
Some magazines. Yeah,
it's so cool that we can have people out there sharing knowledge and, entertainment and things like that in an easily and readily available format. It's out there, So let me do a little, we are actually doing a station renewal for our license, and so let me play an announcement from our station manager, Dr. Dave Lake. Here we go, everybody.
On March 10th, 2017, WRUU-LP was granted a license by the Federal Communications Commission to serve the public interest as a public trustee until April 1st, 2020. Our license will expire on April 1st, 2020. We filed an application for license renewal with the FCC on December 1st, 2019. A copy of this application is available for inspection at the FCC website at fcc.gov. It contains information about the station's performance since the station's license was first granted on March 10th, 2017. Individuals who wish to advise the FCC of facts related to our renewal application and to whether this station is operated in the public interest should file comments and petitions with the FCC by March 2nd, 2020. Further information concerning the FCC's broadcast license renewal process is available from the Federal Communications Commission, Washington, D.C. 20554, or at www.fcc.gov.
All right, everybody. And one other thing I want to cover. I talked about this in the last hour, but I want to talk about this now, too. We had Thanksgiving. Then there was the craziness of Black Friday shopping, Small Shop Saturday, and Cyber Monday, right? But did you know what Tuesday is coming up?
I don't remember. There is something that they made it, like it started in the last couple of years. Remind me.
Giving Tuesday.
Yes. Okay.
Which is like, I think my favorite, because I'm not an anti-consumer, but I'm more like, hey, do you need it? Does it function in your life? Or is it something that will give you pleasure? You enjoy it?
Does it create more?
Yeah. Does it add value to your life? But Giving Tuesday is like a new thing that they've been doing the last couple of years. And did you know, you probably knew this, but did you know WRUU is an all-volunteer nonprofit radio station?
Yes, I do know that.
Yeah, you knew that because you've been here before, right?
And you told me.
And one of the things I love about volunteering my time here is just the family, the WRUU family, and the opportunity to be able to do shows like this with people like you.
Thank you.
Having people like you on the show and talking about different stuff. But Giving Tuesday, WRUU.org, we have a little donate button right there on the website, y'all. So, if you're thinking about doing something for Giving Tuesday and you want to make an impact on WRUU, every dollar counts. Even if it's just $1 and you're like, oh, it's just $1. Well, if those, 1,500 people, a month said, hey, I'm just going to give $1, we would be really close to having our budget covered every month. And there's like a couple 100,000 people live in Savannah, right? But so I'm just saying, if you're going to do Giving Tuesday, consider WRUU. If you're listening to the show or you're listening to, any of the, shows or whatever, click, the donate button if you'd like and, make a donation. It could be $1, could be, a monthly donation, whatever, whatever floats your boat, whatever works for you. And if you can't donate, which is understandable because, some people might not have the finances to do that. If you can share and amplify the signal, play on words there.
I got it. You're so clever.
Yeah, but I'll be here all night, right? Share that with people. If you're sharing stuff about Giving Tuesday, let people know, hey, this is like one of my favorite radio shows, or one of my favorite radio stations. That might have been a little forward saying, oh, this is my favorite show. That was like wishful thinking.
Own it, claim it. Yes. Yes.
So Sebastian is going to play a little bit for us. This is Sebastian Messer, everybody, and he has his band called Krieger. He has a new, what's it called, a pedal?
Yeah, a distortion pedal.
It's wicked. So listen, this is so cool, Siris.
Thank you. I'm excited.
Whoa, dude. I love it. Yeah.
That is so awesome.
It's like
every time, Sebastian. Every time. I love it.
So what? In March is gonna be 4 years, right?
March 13th.
Yeah. He's been practicing like a wicked number of hours every day, like 5-6 hours a day. And what'd you say? How many hours was it? You think?
8,760.
Yeah, estimated over the last 3.5 years, almost 4 years. So, kids, anybody out there, whatever you're doing, whatever thing that is that you like, you know what? Just do it. One of the things I loved about, like Neil Gaiman has this awesome commencement speech that he did, and it's called Make Good Art, if you want to look it up on YouTube or whatever. But he talks about, like his experiences as a writer and going out and, doing
He's one of my
things.
favorite writers.
Yeah.
It's funny. I actually just posted something about him on Facebook earlier this month.
Did you?
Yeah, actually earlier this week.
Yeah, well, he has this awesome video, and I love to share it from time to time, and I watch it myself. But he talks about making good art, going out there and doing your thing. And, something else I saw that I was really love, kind of like a combination here, but Anne Lamott has, that story Bird by Bird, where she talks about her younger brother procrastinated for like a project, and it was about birds. And her dad sat down. The kid was so frustrated, and the dad sat down and said, "You know what? Just take it bird by bird. It's the night before it's due. Just take it bird by bird." And one other thing that I can't remember who said this one, but when you first start off, you have this like, oh, it's just awful. It's just not what I want. It's not to the level that I really would like it to be. Mm-hmm. Keep doing it, because you have taste. You understand that it's not where you want it to be, but you don't have the skill sets yet, or you might not have the resources yet, or whatever. You might not have those things yet, but you have that taste. You have that eye, for whatever it is. Keep doing it, because as you progress, as you move on, you're going to get better. And, sometimes people are like, oh, I do this because, but I'm not going to do it because, those are little, monsters in your head saying, don't do it. Don't do it. Mm-hmm. Don't do it. You can't do it. You're not good.
All the voices that'll try to stop you.
And you talk a lot about that with you talk a lot about, that building that confidence, or, having that courage, to overcome things. So can you talk a little bit about that and share that?
Well, I love what you said. And I wanted to, before I lose the thought, I want to add to it too, that even as we know what's possible, that we can keep getting better, that there's that there's a higher standard that we're holding ourselves to, even those first couple steps when we're doing it can still be an invitation and inspiration to other people. Yeah. Like I constantly have to, it's such an invitation for me to remind myself and acknowledge what I'm creating. Because just like the clinic or any aspect of my business, there's so much more I know, okay, and this, and I'm going to go here, I'm going to go here. But instead of judging myself and like, it's not there yet, I'm walking it. I'm taking action, conscious action right now to create it. Yeah. And all of that is inviting all these other people that are coming behind me. I'm opening those doors and I'm inviting them to walk through them with me.
To experience it.
And then they get to create stuff their way that are opening doors for me and inspiring me. And so people are looking to us in whatever way we're showing up in our lives to be like, oh, I can do that. Or even if it's not the same thing, like with Sebastian with his awesome music playing. For me, I'm like, how awesome is that? What else do I want to practice and devote that energy to? Yeah. That's going to resonate with me. Yeah. So it's the energy of that too. It's just so inspiring. Even if it's not guitar playing for me, it's still like, rock on, man. Yes. Yeah. Where can I rock it?
Yeah, exactly. My thing was, just to keep plugging away, keep doing the work, show up, do the work.
Oh, show up. That's the phrase, man. Yeah.
Just keep showing up, because there's days, I'll be honest with you, there are a lot of days, we've talked about this before too, but there's a lot of days where, like, one of the conversations that we had was, you asked me, what do I want to, call myself? And I was like, I don't like labels, because I do so many different things. And you're like, well,
who are you telling? Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. I'm preaching to the choir here, but it was like, but one of the things that I took away from that experience, and to kind of backtrack here, it was you were wanting to write like a bio or something like that for your audience, right? And I was having a hard time like figuring out, saying, well, because I've done a lot of creative things. I've been a photographer, I've been a journalist, fiction writing, business writing. I've done a lot of creative things. I like to paint. I do a lot of different things, whatever. But from that experience, I took and said, okay, well, what are the main things that I like to do? What are the main things, So when I was doing photography, I would tell people I'm a photographer. And that's what I focused on. But I've been focusing on my writing. So I put, okay, I'm an author, and a journalist, and a radio show host. And all of those things tie back into storytelling. So that's something I took away from, doing your show, because I was like, well, it is confusing. And I didn't say it to try to, be like, oh, I'm an artiste. Not that. I didn't
want. It's just acknowledging what's there. And one of the things that came from the discussion was this great conversation about like, well, what if any label we use wasn't, we we could just acknowledge that we're beyond the label. It's just what's going to work in that moment.
Yeah.
Like I change how I talk about myself in every venue, in any space, whoever I'm talking to, because I know I'm beyond definition.
Yeah.
And you're beyond definition.
Yeah. We all are. As human beings, we all are capable of so much more. You know, we don't have, you know, but to master something though, to like you're talking about the hours and hours and hours spent on music. You know, I just use Sebastian as an example. You know, we bought.
You don't mind, right, Sebastian?
Oh, he doesn't mind at all. And if he did, I'm his daddy, so I overrule that until he calls his mama, and then he overrules me. But no, Malcolm Gladwell talks about the 10,000 hour rule. You know, but it's not just practice, because you can do something. You know, I can't remember who said it, but you can have 20 years of experience, or you can have 20 years of doing the same thing you learned in the first 6 months experience.
Yeah.
So I think to truly master something is to go beyond being an amateur or a hobbyist, and you learn the subtle nuances of your craft or of your profession, that skill set. You're constantly learning, you know, and I think that's one of the things that I noticed with you is that you do encourage other people to learn and to explore, and you know, to not accept the status quo so much as to say, oh, you know, why, what is this? Like even that night, I came over, Sebastian and I were over there playing that, I can't remember what the name of the game was.
Things.
Yeah, and it was so funny because
y'all came over, and thank you again for that. I love having y'all at the house. We have these potluck game nights once a month or so, and y'all came over, and
a couple of my friends actually do that. I didn't realize that was like a thing now that people did. I was like, that's pretty cool.
It's really fun.
Yeah, but it was just neat to see like people just hanging out, and you know, and nobody. It wasn't like a drinking party or anything like that. Nope. People were just having a nice, you know,
because we have kids come sometimes. Yeah. It's a family friendly event. Yeah, and we have all these people that we're we've benefited from having them as part of our lives as we've been living here in Savannah.
Definitely. What inspires you to try different things out, to do new things and explore new things? Because
it's so fun for me.
It's exhilarating.
It's so fun. Yeah. Well, that, and it's like I'm always like, what else? What else could I do? What else is possible? Like who else could I meet? And I think that piece is what adds to your world, what expands your life and living. Like, as soon as I'm not really expanding, and it doesn't have to be always this, like, it's not a compulsion.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I absolutely recognize that I have choice in that at all times. But to really consciously be like, hey, this is intriguing. This is of interest. Let's pull me in. It's calling to me. Let's try it. What's the worst case that could happen? It could be that I don't like it, and then I just choose something else. That's it. That's really it for me. And so I approach that with everything. Like, and I invite my clients to do the same, from the 2-year-old kids I see in their homes to the young adults and teenagers who are dealing with all kinds of stuff with beyond the hormones and the academics and the pressure to go into college and all of that. Like, it's like, well, what if you just knew that you could always just choose something else? Like, I was so grateful when my parents, particularly my mom, when I was applying for college, I applied undecided, which was not rare, which actually is very, very common. But I was in a high school that was a math and science academy. I went to residential high school, so I was away from home, lived on my own since I was 15. And it was a very high pressure kind of school. Like, all the kids and students really demanded a lot of themselves. And then some of them had parents that pushed them a lot too.
Right.
And here I was, and I had this really supportive mom who was like, what if it wasn't a bad thing that you applied undecided? And you know, that you didn't declare a major beforehand and all that. And it was such a gift to me to be like, all right, let's just play, let's explore, let's just take however long I take to try out different classes and see what would really resonate with me, what is really congruent with the life that I would really like to have. And so I started taking these classes and discovered speech and language therapy, and was like, that's what I want to do, and this is great. And at the same time, I knew that my job wasn't going to be everything I was. And a lot of people, they are like, oh, I found it. Whatever, be it the relationship or the job, or, okay, this is my home now. This is the city I love. And so they make it everything.
And they find out later on that it's not.
It's not.
Yeah. Hold that thought. We need to do the station break. I can't believe it's already 4:30. So, everybody, this is Dr. Dave Lake, and he's talking about our license renewal.
On March 10th, 2017, WRUU-LP was granted a license by the Federal Communications Commission to serve the public interest as a public trustee until April 1st, 2020. Our license will expire on April 1st, 2020. We filed an application for a license renewal with the FCC on December 1st, 2019. A copy of this application is available for inspection at the FCC website at fcc.gov. It contains information about the station's performance since the station's license was first granted on March 10th, 2017. Individuals who wish to advise the FCC of facts related to our renewal application and to whether this station is operated in the public interest should file comments and petitions with the FCC by March 2nd, 2020. Further information concerning the FCC's broadcast license renewal process is available from the Federal Communication Commission, Washington, D.C. 20554, or at www.fcc.gov.
All right, everybody. That was our station manager, Dr. Dave Lake. And here is Sebastian Messer playing another lick for us on WRUU.org. WRUU-LP Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRUU.org. We are Savannah Soundings Community Radio Global Soul. Sebastian, would you mind taking it away, please, sir, and melt some faces out there? Proud Papa moment. I'm telling you, every time he plays, I'm like, what? This is my son? Wow. I'm telling you. So, Siris, actually, you brought up a good point. I kind of lost my train of thought when we were talking about the potluck thing.
Yeah.
But you helped me remind me of what I was thinking about. But one of the things I do like about your communication style is that you like to incorporate a lot of play into and encouraging people, with play. And I don't mean like, how do I say? I don't mean like the kind of play like just being dismissive. I mean like play like as in kind of like being exploratory.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Mm-hmm. And that's in like all aspects of my life. If there's not play, I don't really want to do it. Like that's one of the things I love about our conversations is that there's not like all this weight and significance. It's very nonlinear. I don't have to prepare anything. I was like, let's see what shows up. And knowing that we're going to have fun no matter what.
Yeah. That, a lot of folks, it's kind of crazy, but I like the casual conversation style because, and honestly, I like to give people like an intro, but I like to let them talk about themselves and introduce themselves more. I mean, like I like to give like just a brief intro, but I like to do that because it's almost like describing something versus seeing a picture or watching a video. It's like I could talk about you all day long, but wouldn't you rather hear it from the real person?
Thank you for not referring to me like a horse, like from the horse's mouth.
No, I wouldn't say that. I'm just saying, but wouldn't you rather hear it from the person? That's just, I feel like that's a better way to do it. So I know that's not the style that everybody has, and it's just different. I feel like it works for me, and it might not work for somebody else, but that's just the way I like to. I like kind of being loose and relaxed and just chill. So.
Yeah, right the back at you. I think that it's a lot more fun, and I think that if more people included that, like kept their childish enthusiasm for play, and they let go of a lot of that weight and like the meaning to things, and they would actually not use so much energy against themselves and against their bodies to make things so heavy. That's where a lot of the solidification and density, all of that illness, those precursors to illness even come from. I've been working a lot with holistic physicians in my work and really doing a lot of nutritional counseling with a lot of the kids that come to see me. They have feeding and swallowing issues. And so we have to look at, gastroenterologists. We have to look at, their gut health, all these different things in addition to, okay, well, even if they could eat everything that they wanted, what do they have access to? I've been looking and working with Healthy Savannah is a nonprofit organization here, and we've been looking at them giving access to healthy food, to addressing food deserts and all these different things around here, and not just in the Savannah area, but beyond that. And just there's so much intersectionality between these different considerations. But one of the things that I do with my feeding therapy that I do when I eat at a restaurant is like, let's play, let's smell it, let's look at the colors, let's, we can poke at it, we can just touch it if we want. We don't even have to eat anything. Like, it's just whatever level of engagement we can have is still a step forward. And instead of just like, it's on the plate, it's in your mouth. Yeah. There's a lot of stuff.
Finish everything that's on your plate. I think, it's interesting talking about that. It's interesting how generational changes happen. And then on top of that, not just generational changes, but also access to information. We live in an age where everything ever produced is available on a tablet in your hand, a phone
almost
in your
everything,
hand. I mean, literally you can access the world's information here. Doesn't mean you always know the right question. You have to know the right questions sometimes, but it's all here, and that's a relatively new set of issues. That's a whole different ball game, and I think it's funny because somebody was talking about we'll have all the information, and the world will be blah 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 blah, and we end up actually having all the information, and we have cat memes. And I think it goes back to people wanting to have fun and play.
And what if there was nothing wrong with that? It's not one or the other. You can have, I love myself, my business pursuits, and the talking and the very real things that I'm having to deal with my volunteer work and with my clients, and I love vegging out with some Netflix and just chilling. Like, those
mindless humor can be so relaxing.
Yes.
Honestly, I'll be honest with you, this is one of the things, like, just talking about this, just opening up right here, raw on the air with you.
Ooh, I'm excited.
I have obligations. I have responsibilities. I have duties that I have to fulfill. Why? Those are self-imposed.
They're choices.
They're choices. They're decisions, right? So, I'm thinking about you. I'm sitting here across from you, and I'm thinking about our conversation. So we were talking about being mindful before.
Yes.
And I think that is one of the, even picking up the phone is a distraction. Even though I use it as an example, and I'm using it as an example, and it's in my hand now, it's a distraction.
It can be.
And being able to focus, going back to the conversation and being able to, you said, I know that I'm going to be able to, based off of what prior experiences, your interpretation of how you know me, those
that we're
going
to have fun no matter what.
Yeah, so that's all
it's a demand
based
of
off
myself, actually.
Okay.
So
tell me more about that.
So if I know that I can actually choose happy in any given moment, and that's very much a choice, just like I can choose upset. I make the demand of myself to, as soon as things get heavy and crunchy, for me to ask questions like, what's right about this, and what's right about me, and what's right about this person that I'm interacting with. And consistent with the theme you wanted to bring up too, with gratitude, it being like the week after Thanksgiving and the holidays are coming up. I think we mentioned this the last time I was on here too. I find that the more in gratitude I be, the more, and I intentionally am saying be because it's a being,
I know.
That I can't have the judgment of myself and of the situation as much. And so it keeps me open to actually looking for where I can have ease with this, where I can have joy, where I can look at possibilities and open up doors instead of closing doors and shutting myself down and being like, all right, well, I guess this is going to suck. Like,
just got to suck it up.
Like, what if you didn't have to suck up anything? You're just like, all right, so what could I choose here? And sometimes it's walking away.
Disengaging.
And just being like, all right, this isn't working for me. But with you, it's just like, all right, well, maybe we'll just change the topic of what we're talking about. Or maybe we're just going to ask another question and like piggyback of whatever we said before. It just keeps flowing. I think with some people it's easier than with others. Yeah. Absolutely. I will acknowledge that. But even with the people that are the most judgmental, that are the most jerks in your life, and I've had plenty of that as well.
Oh, yeah.
I think we could all think of at least one person.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
What could you choose in those moments that would open up a door?
I'll tell you, I saw something. It was a great video over the weekend that dealt with those kind of jerks. It was, and I thought it was a great tool. I randomly came across it. It was just, I wasn't searching for it. It was just one of those, I was watching YouTube and boom, this guy shows up.
I love that.
Yeah, I was like, oh, there's a message right here. But talking about people that are, they're snarky or they're just being a jerk face or whatever, and they're just not happy with the world and they want to make you miserable too. Like those kind of folks, which we know a lot of those folks. There are a lot of folks out there like that. The guy was like, when somebody's verbally attacking you, you can buy yourself some time by saying, oh, that's interesting. What makes you say that? Oh, that's interesting. Tell me more about that. Or that's interesting. Why, what makes you feel like that? That kind of thing. And the guy used it and I was like, that is so clever, because one of the tools that I learned that works when I'm dealing with a difficult person is when they're frustrated or they're aggravated, and they're talking about just dealing like in service industry or whatever. When you can engage them in a conversation and find out on a different, deeper layer what they're really, frustrated about.
Yeah, what's really there?
A lot of times they'll talk themselves out of it.
Yes.
They'll figure out like, oh, well, I'm just being ridiculous here and I need to stop acting up. Like I need to stop throwing a little tantrum like a, 3-year-old or whatever.
Like maybe those complaints were like the tip of the iceberg and then going to what's up underneath the water and seeing what's really there.
Well, I'll give you an example. I went to a grocery store this morning and the lady was rude to me while I was shopping because I had to use their app to get a digital coupon that the app doesn't work in their store because the internet won't work in the back of their store. So I wanted to have a little country breakfast. So I was going to buy these sausages and they just happened to be on sale for $1.49 for the kind that I wanted. But I had to get the coupon, the digital coupon that only the digital coupon works. And so the lady's, she's, getting frustrated with me because I had to download the coupon. I did it when I was in the register. It was just one coupon. And then I wanted to get the coupon for some potato chips that were on sale. Same kind of thing. Only the digital coupon works to get the sale. And so she said something like, "You need to hurry up because you're counting my time," or something like that. They have like these items per hour type thing where they get docked, or I don't know, it messes up their time or something like that. And I was like, well, I'm downloading this and I'm gonna download it. I mean, I'm not gonna buy this without the sale. And I told her, I said, I'm sorry you feel that way. I wasn't saying anything rude to her, but I ended up having to go back through her lane because when I went out to when I went out to my car, the cart I ran over a little bump in the road or whatever, and the eggs fell out of my cart and smashed. And the lady at the service desk was super nice, and she's like, "Oh no, just go get a new pack or whatever." And that was that. But I was so thirsty that I had to get a drink, so the only checkout lane was open besides self checkouts, which I don't like to use self checkouts. Was the same lady's checkout lane again. And so here I am with the eggs and the receipt in one hand and the drink in the other. And I didn't say anything to her. I looked her straight in the eyes and I handed her the drink without handing it to her. I just held it where she could scan it. Yeah. And I kept the drink or whatever. I said nothing to her. Nothing. Because I wasn't going to engage with her and let her, try to just push her nastiness onto me. Yeah. I'm like, I know, I acknowledge that you're being that way, but I refuse and do not accept that. I don't have to take on your negativity, and I think drawing those lines with people is a difficult issue. I think a lot of people, it does take courage to do that. And, I think that's one of the cool things that you teach people or you show people is, how can I take that step to, and you don't have to be combative with people, but you're allowed to stand up for yourself. You're allowed to say, no, I don't accept that behavior. I don't accept your behavior with me because I don't have to tolerate that, you know. One of my
when we're using that tool that you mentioned about, oh, this is interesting, and just kind of being an allowance to the person, that also doesn't mean you have to be a doormat and take abuse. Those are two different things, and so I'm glad you're clarifying that with your example.
Let me do a station ID real quick, and then we're going to continue. You are listening to the Adam Mesa Show, and my special guest today is Siris Rivas-Verdejo. Am I saying it right? I feel like I'm always flubbing. I swear, I'm sorry. Okay, but you're listening to us on WRUU-LP Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRUU.org. We are Savannah Soundings Community Radio with Global Soul. You know, I have a friend named Dr. Dana Taylor, and she talked, this is a great story I love. It's talking about the same kind of theme. But she, back in the day, they used to have the little rotary dial phones. Mm-hmm. And so she hit the rotary dial, and somehow or another she had a wrong number. She called the wrong number. And this guy on the other end of the phone, she asked for, you know, so-and-so, and he says, you got the wrong bleeping number, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. And he's like, you know, you're so blah, 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 blah. And just, you know, just being really nasty to her on the phone. Because you can say a lot in 15 seconds, 10 seconds, 5 seconds. You can say a whole lot if you want to. And
a whole lot of wonderful, uplifting things and a whole lot of mean, cruel things. It's just a choice.
Sure, exactly. And, you know, I think sometimes people on the other end, they're like shocked, like, what? Mm-hmm. Is my brain registering? You know, it's not even processing what's going on yet. But so back then, you'd slam the phone down and the phone would ring in somebody's ear. And it was like, you know, shriek and whatever. So it startled her. And she decided to call the person back. And she called the person back, dialed the same number, the wrong number. Mm-hmm. And the person said, I just told you, blah, 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 blah. You called the wrong, blah, 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 blah number. Mm-hmm. And she said, you're right. I did call the wrong number. But that doesn't give you the right to be abusive with me. And she, you know, basically told him, you know, hey, you don't have that right, you know, it's just the wrong number, whatever. And then she was talking about the difference between being passive, like a doormat, being aggressive, you know, the combatant, and then being assertive. You know, so when you're passive, or when someone's acting passive, they have, you know, you have rights, but I don't have rights. So you can walk all over me like a doormat. When they're being aggressive, they're saying, I have rights, you don't have rights, so I'm going to walk all over you. When you're being assertive, you say, I have rights, you have rights.
We both do, yeah.
You know, and that's a story that stuck with me all these years later. And that's something that, you know, I think is important because people, you know, like with speech problems, you know, they're going to have issues in the social setting just because of that, like one fact.
Stuttering brings up a lot in people, even people who have never really, they're just super sweet. It makes people very impatient and irritated and annoyed. They want to interrupt them or finish the sentence for them, which is actually makes it more likely for them to stutter if you're interrupting them. So please know that for those that with your kind and caring ways that you're trying to help them, the best thing you could do is to let them talk and wait it out and breathe. But interrupting them actually makes it more likely for them to stutter. And it just it brings up all this discomfort in people's worlds, and
it reinforces that because they're being disciplined or scolded or
they
whatever.
Feel dismissed, but then on top of that, it's a motor planning issue. So it's more likely for you to stutter at the initial onset of an utterance. So when you interrupt, they're having to start over again.
Okay.
And so it's another initial onset. That's another beginning to an utterance. So that's the other reason why it's part of it makes it more likely for them to stutter. And I was talking to a client a lot recently about being more comfortable with being uncomfortable. And that's a big part with stuttering, with life. If you're more willing to actually roll with discomfort and know that by breathing through it and not resisting it, you can actually go through it and get to the other side of it faster. It helps with so many different things. You know, some of the times when people come to the potluck game nights, they're bringing all this history about playing games with family or friends, and they get triggered.
Getting beat up on the Monopoly board.
Right. Or like their parents belittling them, or 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 like the whole competition. Like they feel like, oh, if I did something wrong, then I'm letting my team down. Like all this stuff comes up, surprisingly, with these some innocuous. You think it'd be just a simple thing to have a potluck game night, and so I intentionally pick games that don't have as much of that piece to it, so people can just really play and like not have that significance to it. And they you see them soften. You see them not judge themselves so much and really get to have more fun.
The ice melts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Something that you said earlier about the gentleman, I hesitate to call him a gentleman.
He's a jerk.
That yelled
he's a jerk.
At your friend.
Let's just call him that. He's a jerk.
And so that reminded me of the book Living Beyond Distraction, which is a book written by Gary Douglas and Dr. Dane Heer, the co-founders of Access Consciousness. And it goes through 24 distractor implants.
24 what?
Distractor implants.
Distractor implants.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's these concepts, these energies that are basically trying to get you to be distracted from you being you and from you actually having your awareness of what's really going on. And funny enough, the first chapter, there's 6 chapters, and the first chapter is anger, rage, fury, and hate. And so a lot of people will use this anger, this rage, fury, and hate to distract you from what's really going on, to freeze you in your tracks.
Yeah.
Like the deer in headlights, and be like, what? Is
that
this really
shock
happening?
Factor, yeah.
Yeah, and then you don't actually get to say what you would like to say or have your voice or have your awareness.
Do that a lot. Yeah, narcissists do that a lot.
Yeah, and it's like, here you go, look over here, when really you need to be looking somewhere else.
Yeah.
And it's a phenomenal book that talks about all these other distractor implants. But that one's huge. The second chapter, I think, is let's see, anger, rage, fury, and hate, blame, shame, regret, and guilt.
Yeah.
Those 2 chapters alone are worth the whole book.
You see a lot of that today. You see a lot of that with people that are ultra conservative or ultra social justice warrior type people.
I mean,
you get the anger and hate from the conservatives, and then you get the shame and blame from the social justice warrior people. And it's like, no, you don't realize that you're actually extremists on both sides. You know, we're humans. There's not a winner or loser unless you make it like that. Everybody can win. You know, or we all lose together.
So it's happening. What's happening. And so those are all examples of people using these distractor implants. So then we don't actually get to be what's really possible for ourselves individually in the world. And we don't actually get to have the awareness of like, okay, so what's uniquely possible for me to choose here?
Yeah.
And you go into reaction instead of conscious response.
And
so
then you're not
get
thinking.
Triggered.
You're not thinking at that point, right?
No.
Because when you're in reactive mode, you are basically on autopilot based off of previous experiences, and that's not necessarily going to be a good thing.
It's not so
sometimes
your
you
best
need
choice.
it. Sometimes you need it. Like if you're in fight or flight mode, and you're like, "Oh God, what do I do?"
But even then, you might run right into traffic.
Yeah,
like in the flight.
I love that analogy. Like you might run into traffic. You just went from bad to really bad. I cannot believe we got like 3 minutes left here. It's so crazy.
That's how it is with you, Adam, man. Time flies.
I know. I'll tell you what, I just enjoy it. Where can people check out your stuff?
Gosh,
find
me on YouTube.
One? Yeah.
EmpoweringLightLanguage.com is my website. It has all the links.
EmpoweringLightLanguage.com, okay.
My Instagram, too, Siris.EmpoweringLight711.
And that's SIRIS.
Yeah,
there we go.
It's not spelled the way it might sound to some of you. But yeah, it's
well, it should be really familiar because Siri, Apple.
Add one more S.
Add an S.
Do you remember what that means? You see, the extra S means that I'm smarter than Siri.
Ooh, is that competition there? No,
it's an acknowledgement. I'm claiming it.
You're claiming it. You're smarter than the collective information of the entire world at the palm of your hands and
I'm not the only one.
There's more of us. We're like the Borg. That's awesome. So one more time, because I was totally over talking you there. Sorry about that. Where can people check out your stuff?
It's EmpoweringLightLanguage.com. Yeah.
EmpoweringLightLanguage.com. So, what do you have any parting knowledge that you would like to share with everybody, or anything like new project that you're working on besides the clinic?
Yeah, it's going to be called Limitless Azúcar. So the limitless sweetness and possibilities, basically.
Awesome.
And it also is a bilingual name. So since we're Spanish and English bilinguals. But it's, I love my Choosing It All Your Way coaching sessions. And that's at empoweringlightlanguage.com/choosingitallyourway, where we basically invite people to connect with their bodies more so that they can actually create their businesses and their lives the way that it's going to work for them. So it's way more lit up, way more fun, and not from all the illness and contraction and drama and trauma that a lot of other people are choosing, or that maybe they've been choosing before.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on the show today, Siris.
Thank you for having me.
It's always a lot of fun. We'll have to have you back on soon. So, all right, everybody, stay tuned because we have the Savannah at Night fellas right after this show, and it's going to be an awesome episode. So.